4.7 million people typed the same phrase last month. Can I take a break without losing everything? It wasn't framed as burnout. Not always. Sometimes it was just feeling off. Other times, I need a reset. But the underlying tone was the same. A collective sigh dressed in productivity hacks and half-finished to-do lists. We call it micro-retirement now. It sounds cutie, marketable, aesthetic. A short pause before the next push, a mental health break repackaged as vision realignment. But beneath the language lies something messier. Collapse, confusion, grief for a version of yourself that got swallowed by your own ambition. This isn't a documentary about quitting. This is what it looks like when you hit the wall softly, not with a crash, but a slow fade. One day you're replying to emails at midnight. The next, you're staring at the ceiling at noon, wondering why your body feels like it weighs more than your career ever will. I used to think I was just tired. Then I realized was disappearing. And the scariest part, no one noticed. They kept saying things like, take your time, but time only hurt more when you didn't know what you were healing from. There's a moment that stays with me. The day closed my laptop and told myself, I'll figure it out tomorrow. That tomorrow turned into weeks, into silence, into sitting on the floor of my kitchen wondering if ambition had an off switch, wondering what it means when your dream job becomes your reason to stop dreaming. So here we are, you, me, and the question no one wants to say out loud, why does pausing life feel more essential than pushing forward? Why do I keep performing like I'm okay? I mean, honestly, do I look like someone who's not okay? I brush my teeth, I post memes, I respond to Slack messages with got it and little thumbs ups. I use taking a break like punctuation, like if I say it enough, it becomes true. But the truth is, didn't take a break, took a bow. And no one clapped, not even me. Why do I smile through meetings where I feel like background noise in my own life? You ever nod so hard you almost dislocate your neck? That's me. Every Monday at 10:03 a.m., nodding like my life depends on it. Because I'm afraid if I don't, someone will ask if I'm okay, and I wouldn't know what to say. Not because I'm not okay, but because I've built a career on convincing people I am. Even my therapist laughed when I said, I joke because I'm broken. It's cheaper than insurance. She didn't charge for that session. I think she felt bad. Why do I fear being boring more than being broken? There's this deep, quiet panic that if I stop being on, I'll just be here, me, without the punchlining. And what's left? A cracked phone screen, 2 a.m. hunger, a feeling in my chest that might be anxiety or indigestion. I honestly can't tell anymore. I used to want applause. Now I just want someone to notice when stop performing. Why does rest feel like another role I'm pretending to play? I literally scheduled naps in my Google Calendar, color-coded, self-care in lavender, don't work in coral. And yet, while lying on the floor trying to meditate, I'm doom scrolling productivity hacks on Reddit, reading books about how to not read books when you're burnt out. Even my inner child needs P2. Why does burnout look like I'm doing fine until I stop showing up for myself entirely? It didn't come in flames. It came in lowercase. I stopped texting first, stopped opening tabs that weren't already open, started microwaving food, then forgetting to eat it. Every day became a rehearsal for pretending this pause was intentional, that this micro-retirement was noble, that Ike was choosing stillness, when the truth was stillness chose me, and it held me like a mirror. One didn't want to look into. Why did I tell everyone I was just taking space when really I was just scared no one would notice I was gone? I used to be someone, not like famous, but needed, tagged D, busy. Now the only notification I get is from Duolingo reminding me a failure in Spanish and in life. I told the world I was resting, but I was waiting for a spark, a call, a sign, something to tell me I still mattered, even when wasn't producing, wasn't posting, wasn't pretending. Why does even this confession feel like a bit? Like maybe if I say it funny enough, it won't hurt as much. If laugh before you do, maybe win. Or maybe just interrupt the silence before it says something true. Because here's the thing, I don't miss the work. I miss the version of me who could still do it. Before the mornings got heavy, before rest became fear in disguisey, before it forgot how to be quiet without also disappearing. I used to say, I'm just tired. Now say, I'm resetting. But really, I'm unraveling very neatly, on brand, with good lighting and a little background music. Why do I miss something that was never real? We weren't a company. We weren't a team. Not really. We were a group chat, a deadline, a meme at 11 p.m. Aish used to think that was enough. That being on the same page meant we were close, even if none of us ever really read each other. Why did I mistake momentum for meaning? I think back to those mornings when I logged in early, not because I had to, but because I wanted to be the first one typing. There was this quiet pride in being reliable, not because anyone asked me to be, just because thought being useful meant being wanted. Drank cold coffee and called it ambition, and no one questioned it, not even me. Why was I okay being unseen as long as I was essential? It's strange, looking back, how Ike measured love in response times. If someone hearted my message in Slack, felt seen. If someone forgot to @me me, felt erased. Didn't know how to ask for anything real. So, kept delivering perfect versions of myself, just professional enough to be respected, just impersonal enough to never be disappointed. Why does my memory of that time feel warmer than it should? There's a playlist we made, or maybe I made and they forgot. It still exists, 17 songs, mostly upbeat. I keep it downloaded on my phone. Sometimes play it in the background just to see if I still feel anything. It's like holding on to a souvenir from a trip you imagined but never took. Everything familiar, nothing true. Why does leaving make me feel like I was never really there? When I stopped showing up, nothing changed. No messages, no one asked. It was like mute on myself, and the room adjusted instantly. Thought the silence would make them wonder. But silence, it turns out, is surprisingly easy to fold into. Now, spend my days in softer light, no meetings, no back-to-back calls, just long walks and unread emails. And yet, still replay old notifications in my head, still check shared docs, no longer need access to. Still miss conversations that probably never meant as much to them as they did to. There's this cup on my desk, ceramic, chipped, from a company gift box. I haven't used it in months, but I haven't thrown it away. Maybe because it reminds me of a time when things made sense, even if only in a schedule. Maybe because keep hoping something will feel that simple again. Or maybe because part of me still believes I'll wake up one day and need to rejoin the call. I wasn't just tired. I was tethered to a version of connection that looked like community but wasn't. To a rhythm that felt like purpose but wasn't. And I left, not because I knew I should, but because the quiet started sounding more honest than the calendar ever did. So now I sit with the echo of messages never sent, of a team that never noticed, of a job that felt like belonging until I asked myself who I belonged to. I miss them, think. Or maybe miss being needed, or maybe just miss the illusion that I ever really fit. And somehow, that's the part that hurts the most. Why does love feel like erasure when it's not loud? They didn't block me. They didn't unfollow. They just stopped reacting. I kept showing up, and they kept clapping until slowed down, until paused. And in the pause, saw something I hadn't noticed before. That love, in some rooms, only exists when you're moving, when you're useful, when you're fun, when you're producing. But the moment you get quiet, they treat it like you've left the stage. Like silence equals absence. Like rest means you don't exist anymore. Why did I have to fall apart quietly just to realize I'd been invisible loudly for years? I was the friend who always replied, the teammate who always said yes, the one who filled every awkward silence with a joke and every overloaded task with, I got it, but I was never invited in. Just kept around, like background music that's nice until someone notices the lyrics. Kept showing up, hoping someone would say, you okay? They didn't, so said it to myself, and I answered with exit.
Yeah.
Why do they only notice when you stop giving gang? Gave so much of myself that I started mistaking exhaustion for loyalty. Started believing owed them my PC. They loved my grind, said that was built different. But they didn't see the nights I stared at the ceiling myself, asking myself why I felt more dead on my day off than after a 12-hour shift. They didn't see the hoodie wore 4 days straight, the untouched food, the way flinched when my phone buzzed, hoping it wasn't another request. They only saw what posted, and only posted what didn't make them uncomfortable. Why did I let them call me strong when what I needed was space? They say was too good to quit, but they never asked if Keat wanted to. They say was resilient, but never noticed that was breaking quietly, strategically, so wouldn't ruin their momentum. Didn't cry in meetings, cried in Ubers, in bathrooms, and loading screens, and still came back with a smile because thought being digestible was safer than being honest. Turns out the world doesn't love you when you're honest. They just tolerate you less efficiently. Why does truth feel violent when you've been silent too long? The first time said no. They asked if something was wrong. The second time they stopped asking. The third time wasn't invited back. Apparently saying I'm tired too many times makes people nervous. Apparently setting boundaries is unprofessional. Apparently choosing peace is an act of war when your chaos was profitable. So raised my volume, said what I meant. Not I'm stepping away for clarity, but I'm done being your oxygen mask while suffocate. Why do I still want them to care? Even after walked away. Even now, in this silence fought for, I check my old messages. I replay the last meeting in my head like missed a line that could have saved it. Wonder if they noticed my camera was off because couldn't stop crying. Wonder if they replayed anything at all. Maybe I want them to reach out, maybe want them to explain, or maybe, just maybe, I want to know mattered, even after it stopped being useful. But here's what I know now. I am not volume dependent. Am not only real when I'm seen. My worth is not tied to how much I give, how fast I move, or how quiet stay. They said was dramatic, but survived silently. And now that I'm speaking, they can call it whatever they want. I'm not broken. I'm just done performing clarity for people who only listened when I screamed. This isn't anger, this is reclamation. I'm not asking to be heard. I'm telling you I always was. Why do I keep chasing closure when silence is what I need? After the shouting stopped, not theirs, there was just this quiet. Not the good kind. Not the finally free kind. It was the kind of quiet that feels like fog, thick, invisible, and strangely loud. I thought maybe when I spoke up, when I finally let the anger spill, something would change, that they'd reach back, that someone would say, we heard you, we're sorry. But no one did. And in the silence that followed, I started wondering, was I ever really there for them to lose it? Why do I want closure from people who close the door without ever saying goodbye? I kept refreshing an old thread. Messages from before left. Don't know what was hoping for. Maybe a late reply, maybe a glitch. Something to prove it meant more than it looked like. But the timestamps don't lie, neither do empty scene receipts. People always talk about closure like it's a conversation, but sometimes it's just realizing you're still standing in a hallway long after the lights went off. Why does stillness feel like punishment after so much noisy? I used to fill every gap with movement. My calendar, my breath, even healing had to look like effort. Therapy notes, journaling goals. The pressure to process correctly became its own kind of performance. Now, sit at the window in the morning, listen to the street below. No affirmations, no productivity podcast, just the curtain moving in rhythm with the breezy. And it's awkward, like sitting across from someone you used to love and realizing you have nothing urgent to say. Why do I still crave answers when every part of me knows they wouldn't change anything? I found a folded note in an old hoodie, something meant to say but never did. It said, "If you're going to disappear, at least tell me who I was to you." Didn't send it. It felt too late, too much, too honest. But now, wonder if it even mattered. The truth is, some people don't give you closure. Not because they're cruel, but because they never understood they were part of your story in the first place. Why do I grieve the version of me that waited more than the people waited for? That's the part didn't see coming. I don't miss the notifications. Don't miss the meetings, the fast replies, the smiley face reactions. Miss the person used to be when believed those things meant something. The one who stayed up late, finishing the deck even after being told it wasn't urgent. The one who texted, "I got this," like it was a spell to ward off burnout. Miss her because she tried, even when no one asked her to, even when they stopped seeing her completely. These days, don't wait for closure. I let silence end the story. Not because it's easier, but because it's honest. No punctuation, just space, just the sound of my own breath, finally not competing with a Slack ping. Water the plants before they droop now. Read without highlighting. Cook meals, don't post. None of it feels dramatic or brave or remarkable, but that's what healing is. Not loud, not inspirational, just something you quietly return to when no one's watching. Sometimes still dream of them, not the people, but the version of life thought had. The momentum, the meaning, the machine kept feeding. But when wake up, there's no alarm, just sunlight, just stillness, just me. Some stories don't end. They just grow quiet. Until one day, the inbox goes unchecked. The drafted message stays unsent, and you stop waiting. Not because you got the answer, but because the question no longer owns you. Why did I act like exhaustion was a sign of strength? Because I was scared that slowing down would mean falling behind. So, laughed in meetings, didn't want to attend, said I'm good through gritted teeth, posted motivational quotes while barely sleeping, and when the silence finally came, it didn't feel like peace. It felt like the echo of all the times lied to keep things running. Why did I keep refreshing old threads that hadn't moved in weeks? Because I thought maybe, just maybe, someone would remember was still here, still hoping, still holding space. But hope hurts when it stretches past its welcome. So folded it like an old hoodie and tucked it into the drawer of things used to believe. Why did I finally speak up knowing they wouldn't know what to do with my honesty? Because needed to hear myself say it out loud. Because silence became unbearable, not theirs, but my knee. Because after months of disappearing politely, I realized rage was my only language left. And even if no one clapped, at least I didn't leave quietly. Why does this piece still feel suspicious? Because spent so long surviving chaos, I forgot stillness could be safe. Now, light a candle, water a plant, answer no one. And somehow that feels louder than all the meetings used to over-prepare for. I'm not fixed, and that's enough. Why do you still whisper the goodbye they never gave you? If this feels like your voice, write the line you never sent, or don't. Sometimes healing isn't loud, it's just knowing the silence belongs to you now.